All right, good folks. Hey, good morning. This is JT here from TajiriNet, where we are all about career exploration, wealth education, and lifestyle empowerment. So on this Tuesday morning, I have a very special guest joining us on the panel. Want y'all to give it up for Mr. Bryan Humphrey. a little bit of backstory. We actually went to the same high school together out here in Fort Worth, Texas. We went to Southwest High School. I vaguely recall we had one class. I don't know if you remember. I think we had algebra with Miss Trotter. She was like this older lady who had this deep Texas twang. So yeah, man, there were good times in high school. So, but go ahead and share with us just a little bit, bro. What exactly would you call yourself? I know that there's certain jobs where you have a very certain job like title. Like, for example, I'm a science teacher. That's pretty much it. How exactly would you describe your role in this society?
I would describe my role as a fulfillment expert, a self-fulfillment expert.
Cool. And by fulfillment, what comes to mind?
I describe fulfillment in one sentence: happiness with a purpose. So basically, guys, I do mental health therapy, and then I do speaking, and I've published 2 self-help books, and also I do consultations. I help people identify their own purpose and then structure and self-publish their own book. So everything I do is related to helping people become more fulfilled and growing as a person.
That's beautiful. And how exactly did you get into that? That seems to be like something that isn't as common as, say, a nurse or someone who's into athletics or someone who's into education. Like that's a very unique career field. So how exactly did you get down that path?
Right. Well, let's be authentic. I know you said something about the reason why you created this podcast and doing these things because you were frustrated, and it's kind of the same thing, but this all started with me being frustrated with myself on why I couldn't execute on certain things and why I feel like I had no meaning in life. Even though I was productive, I got the master's degree at 25, I had 2 cars, and everything was going smooth, look on the outside. But there were still certain things, certain habits that I was self-destructing myself because I didn't have meaning. So I was like, why am I doing this? So of course I knew I wanted to do mental health. I was already doing mental health work. I was already doing social work. But I realized, I said, this is not specific enough. This is not, I'm doing something without having the direct connection with it. So whenever I started to really work on my life, right, I cut out certain things in my life and I made some transitions. And I started speaking and I started, writing. I said, man, I feel like the more I operate in this, the more fulfilled I feel, and there's that direct correlation between sometimes it's not even always about knowing your purpose just yet, but just even pursuing your purpose, trying to figure out what your purpose for is. And that brings that fulfillment. And then, after writing a couple of books, doing a TEDx talk in 2019, I realized I'm a true expert on fulfillment. I really know the ins and outs on how to help people identify their specific purpose. So it all started with me being frustrated with myself. And also when I became more fulfilled, I started to see I was like, man, you have so much, I see people have so much talent. You have so much, potential. Why are you not executing on it? What's the gap? What's the barrier? And a lot of times, even though people have the skill set or the talent, they don't have any meaning behind it. They don't know how to find the purpose behind it. Therefore, their life doesn't compare to what they could achieve in this. So like they could be productive, but not purposeful. And that's and the thing is, you see a lot of people look like they're productive, maybe even as a teacher, maybe as a nurse, maybe as a doctor. But there's so many people I've helped in the pandemic who have those professional roles identify their specific purpose, right? For example, you've been a teacher for a while now. I remember you started at ODY, correct?
Yes, sir.
I remember that. You're at ODY, and then now you're in Mansfield.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, it's like now you're really like, teaching was your profession. Now you're locking in your true purpose, and it
Right.
takes time, but it has to take that frustration. So I think, that's how I got started, and now I'm utilizing kind of what I overcame to help others overcome those similar issues and challenges.
Right. And I like that you touched on the fact that people can be productive but not purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
Or another way of saying it is that you could be busy but not productive. And I think a lot of people, what ends up happening is they fill their time. They believe, hey, if I can fill my schedule with ABC, XYZ, then I'll be good. And then hopefully I'll feel fulfilled from the work. But it sounds like kind of like what you're saying. You need to first find that fulfillment. You have to find that purpose, and then you'll see that your time is now becoming more productive. Now you're actually getting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like that idea. Now, one thing I forgot to mention to y'all at the beginning of the video is that that Bryan here is very accomplished. Like he said, he wrote 2 books and also did a TEDx talk. And you're not even 30 years old yet, are you? I'm 30. How old are you?
Just turned 30 in December.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So yeah, we the same age. Now that's actually impressive. Usually when I think of TEDx, TEDx speakers and authors, I generally think of people that are like older, like people that have lived their life and they're like, you know what, let me write a book now. So I think that's very inspirational. So let's talk about some of your authorship, bro. You wrote 2 books, one that I actually had read called Boss Up, and you were giving basically 10 ways that someone can really lock into that purpose that we've been discussing. So go ahead and share with us, like, what are some of the things that you experienced in your life that you really feel made you the perfect candidate to write on these topics?
I would definitely say knowing how to make the transition.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think a lot of times people think making a transition is simply taking action, but you have to take action with a certain perspective, because things are going to be, for example, after we experienced in 2020, there's some things that you can't even think about happening. Right. There's some things that you can't even, think about even experiencing until you have to go through it. And I would say you won't know what it takes until you do what it takes. So those 10 perspectives include faith, appreciation, courage, is super important, because whenever you're trying, not only when you have your purpose and when you have something that you really are working for, in order to balance life circumstances and remain confident in those things, you gotta present those 10 traits consistently. Some people can do it off and on, but the key to unlock is see how this, for example, how somebody can work out for someone to maybe they get sick or something like that and they come back stronger. Like how do people do that? How do people always like how does that person seem to always be on it? It's not because of the fact everything's going right. It's because they're looking at everything with a healthy perspective and they're attacking it in the best way they can according to where they are in their life. If you try to invest, if you can only invest $10 a month, if you can only invest $100 a month, you can only do what you can do. And you keep growing that. A lot of times people get one of the words was patience. A lot of times people lack patience, therefore they're not willing to build. I've been working on this brand for 3.5 years since I started in May 2017. And now I have a social media, pretty nice social media presence too, but all that stuff is good. But without those certain traits, those 10 traits, self-actualization, see the traits that get you there, you're gonna have to intensify those traits to continue to stay there and continue to grow. So I always challenge people, why do you want what you want? Because the why becomes sort of how. And when you give yourself the why, and that creates the purpose and meaning towards what you're going for, which allows you to be more patient, which allows you to be more faithful, which allows you to be more committed, which allows you to be more grateful. It allows you to do those things because you're doing it for a reason that's bigger than yourself. But when you're doing it just for yourself or you want to show off whatever, your mindset is going to be skewed. And when you go things with a skewed mindset, you end up giving up too fast. You end up doing it for the wrong reasons. And when the things get shaky and hard, it's hard to balance something when you don't have purpose with it.
Right.
It's hard to stay committed to something, because the more you actually invest in committed something, the more The more you give something meaning, the more you're willing to commit to it. This is why you see people, no disrespect to anybody, but you see people around our age that are in marriage relationships and they ain't going nowhere because they're not creating the meaning with it. You know, hey, why are you doing that? Just be single. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be honest. So I always say, hey, if you're gonna do something, make sure there's meaning behind it. So those traits are gonna help anybody create more meaning, which will allow them to be more productive and more effective in what they're doing, and then more authentic about what they're not as strong as, so they can ask for help.
Right.
That's how you
Yeah. That's great, man. It sounds like there's a lot of, you said self-actualization. And I remember that on, I want to say, is it the hierarchy of needs? Right. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's like a pyramid that has different levels. And so self-actualization is at the very tip top of the pyramid, which is something that most people, number one, they don't even know it's there. And number two, for those that do know it's there, they don't really have a roadmap on how to get there. So I think it's really great that you have some steps that allow you or allow people to get to that. And one of my favorite steps was when you wrote about consistency.
Can I say something about consistency real quick while you mention that?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I think one of the biggest things to consistency is like having that why. Like having that why. A lot of people know how to get healthier. Hey, I need to work out, eat less sugar, and they do workouts that fit my body. I need to, eat less fried food, whatever. But even though being healthy will make you feel happier or make you feel more confident, why don't we do it? And people, they start for 3 months and they stop because that why, right? One of the reasons why I never stopped working out ever since middle school, because I don't want, if I get out of it, then I got to start all over again. I don't want to do that. I may take a break here and there, maybe a 2-3 day break or a week, but I got to get to a point where I want to live a long time. One of my friends called me in 2000, maybe 15. She was like, "You gonna live a long time." I had the feeling I have to talk with God, and I just felt like you're gonna live to 100 years at least. I said, "Okay, I'm gonna claim that." So everything, my actions are directed towards what I want to achieve. And I think about consistency is that a lot of people see. Here's the thing: when you hear discipline, John, people think that it's some boring thing. People think that's something doing the same thing over and over again. That's insanity. See, discipline is making the adjustments, doing whatever it takes to achieve the goal. So discipline may not always mean you going to have to work out every day of the week. Discipline may mean, hey, you need to get your sleep. You need to get your 6 to 8 hours of sleep. Discipline may mean that, hey, you need to take it off because you have back spasm because you're 33, because maybe you may be a certain age and you're overdoing yourself. Discipline also means knowing when to slow down, knowing when to take a break, knowing when to adjust, knowing when to accept, knowing when to transition. Discipline means doing whatever, being grounded enough to actually do what it takes to actually make the goal happen in your life. Discipline is not being just routine. Discipline is it's probably more flexible than a routine, but the normal person doesn't understand that. Therefore, they think being disciplined is boring. Discipline is actually fun because it brings you more freedom when you do it with the right way and with the right intentions. So that discipline and your purpose and your is all correlated to your consistency.
Yeah, that's great. And for all you folks that are wondering, my camera here had some issues, so I'm on my webcam. So that's why the format looks a little different. But yeah, so I agree with what you said, man. And I think what that also comes with is it takes a little bit of humility. Sometimes what can happen is pride creeps up. And pride tells you, hey, bro, what you're doing, you don't need to change. You don't need to change for anybody. You do you. And what that can do is it causes you to be kind of so hard-headed that you're not flexible to change, and so that's something that I know in my personal life I've had to work on, is just being able to stay flexible, because, discipline, I think, like what you're saying, discipline kind of has a negative connotation, like, a parent has to discipline their kids, you know what I'm saying? But it's really for their good. And so discipline, if done correctly, will help guide someone toward that purpose. Now, you actually wrote that second book too, bro. And I didn't get a chance to read it, but at the end of the video here, I'm gonna give you a little spotlight to tell everyone where to get your stuff at. What's the title of your second book, and what was your primary motivation for writing that one?
So the second book is called The Truth Always Wins, Becoming Fulfilled, Reducing Stress. My primary motive, because I actually did a lot of case studies and just natural case, like talking to friends, talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was realizing a lot of people wasn't really happy with their life. A lot of people was like living in this skewed perspective, this delusion about who they are and what they do, and it wasn't authentic. And I was wondering why you wasn't happy. Like, for example, I'll have let's be real, right? We're 30-year-old man, and you know, I was friends with a couple female friends, and I'm 28 and I'm single, no kids, but then like their behaviors according to what they say they wanted didn't align. You're not acting like you want to be in something serious. You're not acting like that. And then, you know, people say, oh, I want to start a business. I want to do entrepreneurship, whatever. I'm going to have a side hustle. And then they just all over the place. And they can't even keep up with their own regular job. I'm wondering, I said, why aren't people staying like with what they're speaking about? Why aren't people trying to live their truth? Oh, I just love singing, but okay, why you work at a call center? Like, you have this voice, you have this talent, you have this meaning, and you know you have it inside of you. Why are you holding it in? And so I wrote this book because I realized there's a direct correlation with negative stress, positive stress, and fulfillment. And then one of the main reasons is a lot of people, they can't become fulfilled because they have too much negative stress in their life. Either the stress they put on themselves, or stress they have by environment, either by choice or by non-choice. And so I wrote this book to identify 10 different strategies and perspectives to help people actually, you know, to keep growing. Like, for example, one of the chapter 5 is downgrade your lifestyle, because now this isn't downgrade lifestyle forever. This means downgrade lifestyle to get to where you need to get to sustain the next lifestyle. You feel me? So like, I had a bigger apartment. I went to a smaller apartment. I'm gonna go back to probably a bigger apartment in October. But the reason why is because you go down to get to a certain point to get your life together. So when you make the next move, you can sustain. You see what I'm saying? A lot of people, they move up. Like, they what happened? You back home with your parents? Oh, what happened? Like, because people, they move too fast.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So if you move at a point where if you downgrade your lifestyle, you're now setting yourself up for the victory. Most people don't have that 5-year, 3-year, 1 year mindset. They have 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 weeks. And I realized one of the biggest things was, like, you have to really know, a lot of people aren't being rational, and therefore they're creating more stress, and therefore they're not being as authentic, which is leading to a more destructive life, which is the opposite of fulfillment. The more fulfilled you are, the less destructive you'll probably be to yourself. The less fulfilled you are, the more destructive you'll probably be to yourself. So this book was more for adults, probably ages 21 to about 40, 45. Anybody can read, but adults who wasn't executing in the way they want to execute, and who kept giving up and quitting. Right. One of my chapters is change is the only constant. And it's so funny, Jonathan, that I released my book February 21st, 2020, and literally that's about a month before the pandemic started. And I said, change is constant. You know, results. Like, I'm one of my people, they say the favorite chapter is results aren't just numbers. So I talk about how when you go through certain processes and you learn how to be more empathetic, how to be more compassionate, either to yourself or others, how to express more gratitude, how to have more spiritual alignment, and those things, how to have more commitment, how to have healthy relationships. Those are also gains you get without just saying, hey, I increased my house. Yeah, you might have made $10,000 through an investment or through real estate, whatever, and you're an accountant or you're a teacher or you're a lawyer, but have you grown in other ways? Because here's the thing, when you grow your money and you're not growing yourself, that leads to self-destruction. And the reason why people go to self-destruction because they're growing their income and they're not growing themselves because they lack meaning and purpose behind the action that they're doing. Like I said, they're productive but not purposeful. So that was one reason I said this is a problem. Too many people are living in this fake perspective and they're not really happy. You can tell by the energy, you can tell by how they go about their life. People are in these bull crap, positions, and people on these bull crap jobs. I mean, not jobs, sorry, like true, like, that's different if you just casually dating, but if you're in a real relationship, like, make that stuff healthy, yo. Like, if I want to be with you for a long time, like, I don't want to have to argue with you every single day, so we gotta get to a point where, how can we challenge the people that we ourselves and the people around us, but in a healthy way, right? If you my close friend, you know how I challenge you, I'm gonna keep grinding. You may be mad, man, you don't hang out with me, but it's all for a reason. I'm not just hanging out with you and just completely ignoring you. I'm doing podcasts in the morning. I'm going to work out after this. And I got four clients today. Then I got to work on my speech. Honestly, I didn't say this shit, but I'm going to say it on camera on your podcast. I got a big speech next week with Google, a virtual keynote. So nice. Those things, that's what I'm working towards. And I think when you start living in your truth and you start identifying what are positive stressors, what are negative stressors. One of the chapters, choosing your stressors. Some people, see, a positive stress is stress that is going to elevate you. That's working for your workout goal. That's working for maybe like this podcast you're doing right now, whatever it is. It's just a little stressful. There's a little extra thing you got to do, but it's positive because you're building. A negative stress is two things. Negative stress are things that you cannot control, that you worry about. Now, of course, with human beings, we're going to worry about nature. But and the second thing is stress. It's things that you actually can't control, that you keep choosing, and it's toxic. It's negative to you. You're not getting nothing out of it, right? So my mom's like, wow, people doing this. It's the perspective, John. And people don't see things. Like for me, my first chapter is everything is a blessing, and the last chapter is let that go. Because I want people to understand, how do you move on and learn from what you're doing instead of holding it as regrets. You got to let it go, and you got to find a way to see the good, even no matter how crazy your life gets. And the last thing about this book, and just about what I do in general, is that my goal is to help you achieve high milestones and become fulfilled according to actually where you at. Like if you only have, when I do my coaching clients, I said, how much time do you have to write? She said, I can write 5 days a week, 45 minutes a day. Okay, perfect. That's how we're gonna start. So this compared to probably be a 6 to 9 month process. Are you okay with that? That's fine. Cool. See, when you're realistic and honest, you don't try to rush and try to get the book done or get the goal done in 3-4 weeks and then you quit. A lot of people don't have first, they don't have a clear vision. Then they don't have the structure to be patient. People aren't just not patient because they're not patient, John. But people are not patient because they're not living in their truth. If you know you can only put a certain amount of time, a certain amount of energy towards what you're doing, why would you try to be impatient? That hey, you got 2 kids, you got this and that going on. I can put an hour towards this book 4 days a week. Cool. It's gonna be about a 9-month process. Are you okay with that? If you want a 150-page book, that's cool. Boom. Once you get okay with your actual truth, you're more patient. You're more willing to be flexible, John. You're more willing to do the things that people are afraid to do. You're more willing to take risks because you're taking calculated risks. You knowing exactly, okay, if I lose this, I'm okay with losing this risk. If I win, I'm gonna be super happy. A calculated risk is being okay with the loss if you lose from the risk. And it's this. And if you live your truth, you don't take risks that you can't afford. You only take risks that you can afford. So I get real passionate, as you see, about this, and this is why I'm an expert at it.
Hey man, keep that in. I love that energy, man, because if I was honestly, if I needed somebody to be my coach, if I needed somebody to give me that level of wisdom, I would want them to have that energy, because you're going to need that. The energy is like a product of, or I think it's really a product of your purpose. I think that's your blessing right there, man. And so when you were talking just now, there's one particular word that came to my mind, and that word is honesty. Like, you've got to be honest with yourself. You cannot be in a position to where you're like lying to yourself. You have to be honest enough to understand, hey, I want to reach this goal, but there's steps, right? I like to tell myself there's a method to the madness. You can be successful. You got to do the smart work and the hard work. The smart work means you have to do, that's basically you're doing your research. You're trying to figure out the structures that are going to get you to your goals. Then the hard work is that grind. That's the day-to-day rubber meets the road type of attitude that's going to get you to that goal.
Correct.
So before we get out here, man, as you can see, I'm in my classroom. Usually this is the career couch, so I'll be chilling at my home. But, thanks to COVID, which hopefully settles down this year, we're going to go ahead and claim it right now that, COVID-19 is going to settle down in 2021.
Right.
And so, but yeah, I'm in my classroom right now, and I'm going to see my students tomorrow. And so if you could, now I know you got a whole box full of nuggets of wisdom. And so what would you say to, you know, a high school age kid, someone who's, you know, 14, 15, 16, in that age range. And, you know, they might be the first person in their family to have a shot at college, or maybe everybody in their family has gone to college, but they just don't feel like that's their pathway, or maybe they've got something else on their mind. What is some wisdom that you would share with someone who's in that age range, you know, someone who's in school? What's something that you would tell them in order to get them thinking about this road of self-actualization and purpose?
Now this is a unique question, because it really depends on how the people raising them are, right? And then they're in self-actualization, they're living purposeful lives, then they'll understand if their kid don't want to go to college, because what they're trying to do may not require college, right? And they may want to create their own business. Now, if they come from, you know, how we're socially programmed, go to school, get your degree, do that. Now, I think things are changing now, but how we used to be how they were socially programmed, you know, they're gonna have to go against the grain, right? And this is the biggest thing. Hey, I'm gonna provide a real life example, right? When I was growing up, you know, even high school, like middle school, you know, I did all the sports and everything. I was all this, and my dad used to always say, "Bryan, stop being so arrogant." And my mom, like, dude, I'm just being confident. I'm not being arrogant. Like, I didn't see it like that. I seen like, no, I really believe I'm gonna do this, you know. And it's quite crazy, because he was adamant about me like getting a degree in something else besides social work. I said, no, I'm gonna do more than just social work. Just relax. Like, that's when I started writing. After I failed the license exam, I started writing books, speaking, and now look at it. You know, it takes time, but I think people, not everybody, but most people can only see as far as they've been. Or now you have some people can see farther than that because they have somebody in their life that's been farther than that, right? But for the normal person, for the normal parent, or for the normal guardian, they can only see as far as they've been. But now things are being more exposed to social media. Thank God, social media is not a bad tool; it's a great tool if you use it correctly. So now they're seeing that it's possible that a kid 16, 17 can be a professional model and singer, or a professional business owner, and not having to go to college and getting a degree. They can make more money at 18 investing in Forex and investing in real estate than, you know, going off to college and going for just building up debt, right? I gotta still pay college off. You probably still gotta pay college off. It is what it is. But I encourage these, especially teenagers aged 14 to 18, if you feel like you're good at something, go for it. And this is what I mean. What I mean is that regardless of what people say, when you know internally that you are a good singer, that you actually a great rapper, because a lot of rappers are born up at 16, 15, 17, 18. Like, sometimes you gotta go against the grain. I'm just gonna say how it is. And then sometimes you're gonna hurt people's feelings. This is the truth, and the truth always wins. And what you have to do is, if you're gonna do it, like, what's that song that Webby said back in the day? If you're gonna do a big deal. If you're gonna do it, do it.
Right.
And be okay with the outcome. If you do something, if you feel like you can be a fashion expert, and you start trading on, you start doing, your mom drops you $5,000 to buy your first t-shirts and stuff like that, and you don't execute that first 2 years, you gotta be okay with the outcome. But here's the thing. I listened to this TikTok a while back, and this will helps me. There's 3 things. Do the hard work, do the uncomfortable work. You want to live authentically, no matter how old you are, how young you are, and surrender outcome. And then those are the 3 main things. Like, I listened to this TED Talk before I did my TED Talk, right? I mean, before I started. And he said 3 things. He said drug addicts are like leaders, and vice versa. You want to be authentic. You want to do the uncomfortable work and surrender the outcome. And within those 3 things, you're able to reach fulfillment. And for those kids, they can be purposeful at 16 and 17. And it's so funny, John, that you're mentioning this, because this year I'm gonna work on, now not high school, I'm gonna work on a kid's book from 3rd to 6th grade, and it's gonna be called Sorry I Did It on Purpose. Because in those ages, you see kids who talk a lot. Like, think about Kevin Hart when he was in 6th grade, probably a class clown. But he's made millions and millions of dollars off being a comical person. That's who he really is. Think about Eric Thomas. Think about me. I was always the cool that was just trying to help people and give people advice. Like, hey, you're too cool with everybody. It wasn't that, because I just seen stuff, and like now people say, man, you need to stop being so advicey and nice, whatever. Like, but I realized, hey, that was my gift. I can see something before other people can see it and observe it. Hey, you might want to, you know what I'm saying? And think about the person that talked a lot. Think about Eric Thomas, a professional speaker. He talked a lot in high school. He said that led to him being one of the best speakers in the world. So a lot of the times, when a kid or a teenager do a certain thing, they always doing beats and rapping. They could be one of the new next little babies. They could be one of the next. We can't stop holding them back because it's not what we doing. It's not what we teaching. Right. It's not. I don't know. Just because you can't teach rap doesn't mean that kid shouldn't be doing rapping. That kid might need to be doing. So he might make all A's in English. If a kid making A's in English and A's in literature and a D in math, I don't care. He probably code at writing or rapping. You know, if a kid, and some kids are great athletes. You know, if a kid don't have to make, we got to put, I want to encourage your students, they don't have to make all A's. You don't have to be great at everything. You have to tone in on what you're great at and meet the requirements on other things. So if you make those 2 A's in the classes you really like, in a C or B in the other class, just pass. Because at the end of the day, high school diploma, you don't have, you don't necessarily say, oh, you graduated 5.0, 4.0, you graduated. Now, if you're trying to be a doctor or a lawyer or those things, of course, you got to make the certain grades. But if you know in your heart that you're going to be the biggest author or the biggest rapper or the biggest singer, and you can sing, I encourage anybody with a true pure talent, if it's football, whatever, do what it takes now. Get around the right people, get around positive people. And if you do have, and let's say for what it is, John, if you do have adults in your life that are, they don't see it that way, you got to minimize that. You got to minimize the interaction with them. Because some people will shoot you down because they don't understand, because that's not their life. And like for me, I'm the first person in my family to get a master's degree. I'm the first person I know that's written 2 books and a TED Talk from Southwest High School. Nice. Right? I'm going against the grain. And we only 30, bro. So it's a lot of things that I've done. Oh, you sure? You sure? That's not kind of, I don't know, Bryan. You might not need to do that. So think about it. If I would have did this at 17 and 18, I'd have been a millionaire by now. Right? So like, I want to encourage kids, just encourage them. Hey, if you have that feeling that you can do this thing, like start doing it now. Of course, do it. Don't overdo it where you can't pass your classes or you can't, help your mom pay her bills, whatever. You got to get a little part-time job at McDonald's. That's cool. But do what you're good at. And if you don't know what you're good at, start doing things you're interested in. One main thing to leave for your students, you find out what you're really, really good at through doing things you like. I like motivating people. I like giving people advice that was logical and rational. I started speaking after a couple years of doing that. Right? You start giving people advice. Maybe I should do this speaking thing. Boom. You're going to find your gift within doing things you're interested in. Now, you may like sports. You may like football, but you may not be a professional football player. You may be a varsity player as a junior, got your little letters. You may have played JUCO, but you may not be that athletic or that talented to go pro or to go big D1. Cool. But you like football though. Maybe your talent was your gift was to be an agent. Maybe your gift was to be a middle school coach. Maybe your gift was to be maybe somebody who wrote up plays. Maybe your gift was to be a mental strength wellness coach for top D1s in the nation, right? So you're going to find your gift within your interests.
Right. Man, I feel like I should have been writing that down, because a lot of what you said, I'm like, man, I could still apply that. Yeah. So focusing on strengths, that's a big thing. A lot of people are kind of taught to try to minimize their weaknesses, which to an extent you should. But I think when you focus on your strengths, that's what really gives you a sense of, it's hard to explain. Like, for example, I like music. I pretty much make beats every day. And there's something about pulling up that program that makes me feel like, okay, I'm the man. I know I got this. I know I'm gonna make a cold beat. I know I'm gonna do something. And that feeling is something that I want other people to experience. Now, it might not be music. It might be, like, for example, it might be speaking to people, motivating people. It might be, you're really good with your hands and you like to be a plumber, a carpenter, electrician, mechanic, whatever it is. You want to find that thing that really sparks your interest, something that is already aligned to your strengths. So, man, there's so much we could talk about this, man, but I want to be respectful of your time, man. So very last thing, go ahead and tell us where can we pick up your books? Go ahead and tell us one more time, what's the name of your books? Do you have a website? Where can we get in contact with you, bro?
Yeah. I'm gonna say just one more little nugget real quick. One, this is very important.
Go ahead.
So
go ahead.
This is for anybody who watches this, who's going to watch this interview. I read a book that Grant Cardone wrote a while back, something about being a millionaire thing. And he said, you want to make sure every way you make money aligns. Of course, besides real estate something that you can do right, but all the other ways you make money, make sure it aligns. For example, I speak about fulfillment. I write about fulfillment, mental health, leadership, personal growth. I do therapy with at-risk youth, and then I do consultations to help people identify their purpose and self-publish their own book. Right. So guys, when you start doing multiple things, you want to make sure they align. If you're working at H&M, you have your own t-shirt brand, and then maybe you're a designer. Make sure they align, right? Because the reason why the thing is, life's going to bring a lot of stressors, and if you don't like what you're doing majority of the time, you're screwed. Right. So you got to like what you do, and you got to be good at it, right? And if you are good at it and you don't know how, like you don't really like it, don't just this last thing I'm gonna say before I do my website. Don't just do what you love. Do what you're good at and find a way to fall in love with that. A lot of people know what they're good at, but they haven't found a way to fall in love with their gift. Fall in love with what you're good at. It makes life a lot better, easier, right? But my website is bryanhumphrey.org. Both my books are on there. They're also on Amazon. They're on Audible. And you can go to my website, bryanhumphrey.org/books, and you'll see like the different formats of my book, the ebook, the audio books for both, the physical copy, and my TEDx talk is overcoming obstacles and reaching self-fulfillment. My Instagram, my professional Facebook page, my Twitter, it's all on the Mr. Bryan Humphrey. My LinkedIn is Bryan Lynn Humphrey. I'm also recently on TikTok. I post about maybe once a week on Mr. Bryan Humphrey. So for your high school, they love TikTok, they love positive quotes and stuff like that. But that's when you can reach me, guys. bryanhumphrey.org. Please get at me, reach out to me. Let's connect and let's build, let's grow.
Awesome, man. And so that is pretty much it for today. Hey guys, I want to thank y'all for watching this video. If y'all have any questions for me, if you got any questions for our guest Bryan here, go ahead and type those in the comment section or on the Facebook comments, wherever you're watching this video. Make sure you like it. And if this inspired you in any way, or if you feel that, hey, this wisdom can impact the life of someone close to you, go ahead and share this video with them. So with that, guys, that's been TajiriNet. We're going to put Bryan's information in the video information part. I kind of forgot what it was called for a second.
No worries.
But yeah, man. So again, I appreciate your time. Thank you for allowing me to pick your brain for wisdom. And we're going to get up out of here.